Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating microfable about something, well, pretty much all of us struggle with. We spend a huge chunk of our lives trying to calculate risk, right? We're always trying to figure out how to avoid failure and build these massive safety nets. But what if our whole definition of safety is just completely flawed? Today we're going to explore the incredible rewards behind taking risks by looking at a super short story about two tiny seeds. Let me tell you, it packs an absolute wallop of a lesson when it comes to human ambition, the real dangers of playing it safe, and those massive compounding rewards that come from stepping into the unknown. Let's get right into it.
So I want you to hold this question in your mind as we go through today's analysis. What is the true cost of playing it safe? I mean, we almost always think about the cost of taking a risk, right? We constantly ask ourselves, man, what do I stand to lose if I try this and totally fail? But very rarely do we flip the script. We rarely ask what it's costing us to do absolutely nothing. As you'll see in our source material today, staying hidden in that cozy comfort zone isn't just limiting, it can actually be the most dangerous choice you could possibly make. Section 1, A Tale of Two Seeds, the choice between ambition and preservation. All right, so our story starts in a quiet little garden with two tiny seeds lying right side by side in the soil. They're starting from the exact same place with the exact same potential, but they're rapidly approaching a fundamental crossroads. And right here, we see their brilliantly contrasting mindsets. The first seed, the brave one, declares, I want to grow. It's totally focused on a forward-looking trajectory. But look at the second seed, the fearful one. Its immediate knee-jerk response is, what if I don't grow? It is just instantly paralyzed by the unknown. It's kind of fascinating because both seeds are looking at the exact same future, but while one sees a massive opportunity to advance, the other is completely consumed by the possibility of failure. This is exactly where their opposing worldviews completely dictate their entire futures. The language they use literally frames their destiny. What's really interesting to note here is just how specific the brave seed's vision actually is. It doesn't just want to grow. It has a crystal clear picture of the rewards behind taking risks. It wants to grow into a strong tree. It wants to experience the elements, to actually see the sunshine and literally feel the rain. It even anticipates how its growth is going to benefit others, wanting to give birds a home. The brave seed is already envisioning the long-term rewards of engaging with its environment. I mean, it hasn't even sprouted yet, but it's motivated by this vivid, compelling vision of what is possible on the other side of that initial terrifying push through the dirt. Moving on to Section 2, the illusion of safety, the danger of doing nothing. Okay, so now that we've seen the brave seed's vision, we really need to dig into what's going on in the mind of the seed that decides to hold back. Let's look at the fearful seed's anxieties. It's worried about the wind breaking it. It's worried about someone stepping on it. And because of these fears, it just concludes, you know what? I'll stay here where it's safe. Now, to be fair to this little seed, these are not completely irrational fears. In a real garden, the wind really can snap a fragile sprout, and a careless foot absolutely can crush a young plant. The fearful seed correctly recognizes that the environment outside the soil is risky, but its calculated response is deeply flawed. It genuinely believes that by avoiding the external environment altogether, it's somehow eliminating risk entirely. And that leads us to this crucial point. The fearful seed stayed underground, absolutely refusing to take the risk. It chose inaction. I really want to emphasize this moment because it's a trap so many of us fall into. The seed is just sitting there in the dark, basically congratulating itself on being prudent, cautious, and secure. It believes it has successfully outsmarted the wind and those heavy footsteps up above. But what it completely fails to realize is that absolute safety, well, it just doesn't exist. By refusing to grow, the seed has essentially locked itself into a state of permanent vulnerability, which leads directly to this pretty stunning outcome. One day, a hungry bird searching for food found the seed and ate it. Wow, it's a really blunt, ironic twist from our source material. Just think about the profound irony here for a second. The seed stayed underground, specifically to avoid being broken or crushed, right? And in doing so, it remained in its absolute most defenseless edible state. The attempt to avoid all risk led directly to its sudden demise. By trying to cheat the natural process of growth and risk, the fearful seed actually guaranteed its own destruction. Doing nothing was, in fact, the deadliest risk of all. No way around it. Which brings us to Section 3, the rewards of risk, embracing the upward trajectory. So let's pivot back to the brave seed. This shows us exactly what happens when we stop trying to control every single variable and instead fully commit to the journey of growth. We can map out the brave seed's upward trajectory. Step 1, it pushed through the soil. Step 2, it reached the sunlight. And step 3, it slowly became a beautiful tree. Notice the effort that's implied here. It didn't just magically poof into a tree overnight. It had to push through that heavy, dark dirt. That requires immense energy and, frankly, a ton of vulnerability. But once it broke through and finally reached the sunlight, the process continued until it became something majestic. Growth absolutely requires pushing through initial darkness and resistance. You've got to be willing to be a fragile sprout before you can ever become a strong tree.
And just look at the return on investment. These are the amazing compounding rewards of that initial risk. Birds built nests in its branches, children played in its shade, and people admired its beauty. Remember the brave seed's initial vision? Well, it actually came true and then some. But honestly, the most beautiful part of this source text is that the rewards aren't just for the seed itself. Because it took a risk, it created a whole ecosystem. It provided shelter, joy, and beauty to others. None of this, not the nests, not the shade, not the admiration, was possible without that terrifying first push through the soil. The rewards behind taking risks really do ripple outward.
Comparing these two journeys perfectly summarizes everything we've been talking about. The brave seed pushed through the soil and became a beautiful tree. Meanwhile, the fearful seed stayed underground and was literally eaten by a hungry bird. The real fatal danger was entirely in stagnation. And the ultimate reward? That was found entirely in taking a chance. When you evaluate their stories side by side like this, it kind of strips away all those complex excuses we make for playing it safe, doesn't it? It forces us to acknowledge that risk is not just some barrier to entry. It is the fundamental requirement for survival and success. Let's wrap up with Section 4, taking the first step, the price of growth. Now, our source material doesn't pretend for a second that the brave seed had some easy, magical journey once it reached the surface. No, the brave seed realized that growing had not always been easy, but every single challenge had made it stronger. This is such a critical piece of the puzzle. The brave seed wasn't magically spared from the wind or the rain that the fearful seed was so incredibly worried about. It faced those exact same elements. But rather than those elements destroying it, those very challenges are what built its enduring strength. Think about it. The wind actually forces a tree's roots to dig deeper. The rain, which can be super turbulent, is exactly what nourishes it. The obstacles aren't in the way of growth. The obstacles are the mechanism of growth. And that brings us to the core moral of our fable. Great things happen when you have the courage to take the first step. This brilliantly connects the seed's courage directly to the crossroads that you and I face in our own lives every single day. Notice how the text doesn't say safe things happen or easy things happen. It says great things happen. But greatness is entirely locked behind a toll gate, and that toll is courage. It requires action. You literally cannot think your way into becoming a strong tree. You actually have to do the terrifying work of pushing through the dirt. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative question based on the text. Will you stay safely underground, or do you have the courage to take the first step? We've seen the incredible rewards behind taking risks today, and we've seen the terrifying illusion of playing it safe. The garden is waiting. The elements are out there, yeah, for sure, but so is the sunlight. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helps you look at your own choices just a little bit differently and inspires you to fully embrace that upward trajectory. Catch you next time.